What happens when a daytime television icon comes face to face with someone who believes the rules simply don't apply to them? When politeness meets entitlement and a friendly interview turns into an all-out war of words that nobody saw coming? It only took 36 seconds after one single comment for everything to explode, for a guest to completely lose control, and for a beloved host to do something she's never done before in her entire career: kick someone off her own show. Make sure you hit that subscribe button right now because we're pulling back the curtain on royalty's dark side, exposing entitled celebrities and their shocking behavior the cameras never showed you. We've got the raw footage they don't want you to see, and you won't want to miss a single reveal. Drop a comment below with your thoughts on this outrageous behavior, because what you're about to witness will leave you absolutely speechless. The Kelly Clarkson Show has always been known as one of the warmest, most welcoming spaces on daytime television. Kelly has this incredible gift of making every single guest feel like they're sitting down with an old friend, just having a genuine conversation. She's interviewed hundreds of celebrities, from Hollywood legends to chart-topping musicians, and every single time, she brings that same infectious energy, that same authentic warmth that made America fall in love with her in the first place. But on this particular day, that warmth was about to be tested in ways nobody could have predicted. The stage was set perfectly, as it always is. The audience was buzzing with excitement, ready to welcome the guest of the day. Kelly walked out to thunderous applause, flashing that megawatt smile that could light up any room. She settled into her chair, glanced at her notes, and prepared to welcome someone who had been making headlines for years. Someone who had captured the world's attention with a fairy tale romance that turned into a global media sensation. Please welcome our next guest, Kelly announced with genuine enthusiasm, and the audience erupted as Meghan walked onto the stage. The greeting seemed normal enough at first. Meghan walked over, and there was the customary hug, the exchange of pleasantries. They both sat down, and Kelly dove right into the conversation the way she always does, with warmth and curiosity. "It's so wonderful to have you here," Kelly began, her smile bright and welcoming. "I've been looking forward to this conversation. There's so much to talk about, so much people want to know about your journey, your life now, everything you've been through." Meghan smiled, but there was something different in her expression, something that didn't quite match the friendly atmosphere Kelly was trying to create. "Well, thank you for having me," she responded, her tone carrying an edge that seemed slightly out of place. "Though I have to say, I'm very selective about where I choose to appear these days." Very selective. Kelly, ever the professional, didn't miss a beat. "Of course, and we're honored you chose us. I think our audience is really excited to hear your perspective on things, to get to know the real you beyond the headlines." "The real me," Meghan repeated, and there was something sharp in the way she said it. "That's interesting, because most people don't actually want to know the real me. They want the version they've created in their heads, the version the media has sold them." The audience shifted slightly, sensing a tension that hadn't been there moments before. Kelly maintained her warm demeanor, trying to steer the conversation back to safer ground. "Well, that's exactly why we wanted you here, to let you tell your own story in your own words. No filters, no tabloid spin, just you being honest with us." "Honest," Meghan said, and she let out a small laugh that didn't sound particularly amused. "Do you really want me to be honest, Kelly? Or do you want me to give you the sanitized version that makes everyone comfortable?" Kelly paused, clearly not expecting this response. "I absolutely want you to be honest. That's what this show is about. Real conversations with real people." "Real conversations," Meghan echoed, and now her tone was unmistakably condescending. "That's a nice sentiment, but let's be real here. You have no idea what real conversations are like when you're at my level, when you've lived the life I've lived, when you've experienced what I've experienced." The audience went quiet. This wasn't the friendly chat they'd been expecting. Kelly's smile flickered for just a moment, but she recovered quickly. "I think everyone has their own unique experiences that shape them. That's what makes conversations interesting, hearing different perspectives." "Different perspectives," Meghan said, shaking her head slightly. "Kelly, with all due respect, your perspective and my perspective exist in completely different universes. You stand up here every day, singing songs, chatting with celebrities, playing games. It's cute, it's entertaining, but it's not exactly groundbreaking, is it?" The air in the studio changed completely. You could feel the shock rippling through the audience. Kelly's expression shifted, the warmth in her eyes replaced by something harder, more guarded. "I'm proud of what we do here," she said, her voice still controlled but with an unmistakable firmness. We create a space where people can be themselves, where they can laugh, share their stories, and connect with our audience. That matters to people. I'm sure it does, Meghan replied, her tone dripping with dismissiveness. I'm sure Middle America loves tuning in to watch you dance around and act relatable, but some of us have actual important work to do. Some of us are trying to change the world, not just entertain it. Kelly sat up straighter in her chair. Entertaining people isn't something to be ashamed of. Bringing joy into people's lives, giving them a break from their struggles, that's meaningful. That's valuable. Is it though? Meghan challenged, her voice rising slightly. Is it really valuable in the grand scheme of things, or is it just a distraction? A way to keep people from thinking about the real issues, the real problems in the world? I think you'd be surprised how much our show means to people, Kelly responded, and now there was a noticeable edge in her voice. We hear from viewers every single day who tell us that we've helped them through difficult times, that we've made them smile when they needed it most. That matters. Meghan waved her hand dismissively. Of course they say that. What else are they going to say? But let's not pretend that what you do here is on the same level as actual advocacy, actual change-making. Some of us are fighting real battles. The audience was completely silent now, stunned by what they were witnessing. Kelly took a deep breath, clearly working to maintain her composure. I have tremendous respect for advocacy and activism. I support many causes myself. But I don't think we need to tear down one type of work to elevate another. I'm not tearing anything down, Meghan said, though her tone suggested otherwise. I'm simply stating facts. There's a hierarchy in this world, Kelly, and some of us operate at a different level than others. That's just reality. A hierarchy, Kelly repeated slowly, and you could see her processing what was happening, trying to decide how to respond. I don't think that's how it works. I don't think any person is inherently more important or valuable than another. Meghan laughed, and it was not a friendly sound. That's a lovely democratic sentiment, very American of you, but it's also incredibly naive. Do you really think your voice carries the same weight as mine? Do you really think that when you speak, the world listens the way they listen when I speak? Kelly's jaw tightened. I think when anyone speaks their truth, it matters. I think every voice has value. Every voice has value, Meghan mocked, her tone openly contemptuous now. That's such a quaint belief. But here's the thing, Kelly. I was born into a certain reality. I married into another one. I've lived a life you could never understand, experienced things you could never imagine. And that gives me a perspective, a platform, a power that you simply don't have. I see, Kelly said, and her voice had gone very quiet, very controlled. So you're saying that because of who you married, you're somehow better than everyone else? I'm saying that my experiences have given me insights that most people will never have. Meghan shot back. I'm saying that I've been inside institutions, inside systems of power that you've only read about. I'm saying that yes, I do operate on a different level. And I don't think I should have to apologize for that or pretend otherwise just to make other people feel comfortable. The entitlement audience was visibly uncomfortable now, shifting in their seats, exchanging glances with each other. Kelly looked out at them, then back at Meghan, and something changed in her expression. The professional mask was still there, but underneath it, you could see her making a decision. You know what? Kelly said, her voice steady and clear. I invited you here today because I thought we could have a real conversation. I thought we could talk about your experiences, your perspective, in a way that would be interesting and enlightening for our audience. But what's happening right now? This isn't a conversation. This is you using my show as a platform to talk down to me and to everyone watching. Oh, please, Meghan said, rolling her eyes. Don't be so sensitive. I'm just being honest, which is what you said you wanted. There's a difference between being honest and being cruel, Kelly responded, and now her voice was firm, authoritative. There's a difference between sharing your bored truth and using it as a weapon to diminish other people. And I don't think that's what this show is about. I don't think that's what this audience deserves. Meghan's eyes narrowed. Are you seriously trying to lecture me right now? Do you have any idea who you're talking to? I'm talking to someone who came onto my show and has spent the last several minutes insulting me. Insulting what we do here and insulting our audience, Kelly said, her voice rising now. I'm talking to someone who seems to think that their experiences somehow make them superior to everyone else. And honestly, I'm not okay with that. Not okay with that, Meghan repeated mockingly. Well, I'm sorry if my truth makes you uncomfortable, Kelly, but that's not really my problem, is it? Kelly stood up from her chair, and the audience gasped. This was unprecedented. This never happened on the Kelly Clarkson show. Kelly looked directly at Meghan, and when she spoke, her voice was calm but absolutely unwavering. Actually, it is your problem, because this is my show, this is my stage, and I get to decide what kind of energy we allow here. I get to decide what kind of treatment is acceptable and what isn't. And what's happening right now, the way you're speaking to me and about the work we do here, that's not acceptable. Meghan stood up too, her face flushed with anger. Excuse me? Are you actually suggesting what I think you're suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything, Kelly said clearly. I'm telling you that this interview is over. I'm asking you to leave my stage. The audience erupted in a mixture of gasps and scattered applause. Meghan looked absolutely stunned, as if she couldn't believe what she was hearing. You cannot be serious right now. Do you have any idea what kind of mistake you're making? I'm completely serious, Kelly responded, her voice never wavering. I've been doing this show for years, and I have never had to ask a guest to leave. But I'm asking you to leave, now. This isn't what we do here. This isn't who we are. This is unbelievable, Meghan said, her voice shaking with rage. Do you know how many people would kill to have me on their show? Do you know what kind of ratings I bring? What kind of attention? I don't care about ratings more than I care about respect, Kelly said simply. I don't care about attention more than I care about treating people with dignity. And I'm not going to stand here on my own stage and let someone talk down to me, and everyone who works on this show, and everyone who watches it. So yes, I'm asking you to leave. Meghan looked like she wanted to say more, her mouth opening and closing, as if she couldn't quite find the words. The audience was completely transfixed, watching this unprecedented moment unfold before their eyes. Finally, Meghan grabbed her purse from beside her chair and turned toward Kelly with one final cutting look. You're going to regret this, she said, her voice low and threatening. You have no idea what you've just done. Kelly met her gaze steadily, unflinching. The only thing I regret is not stopping this conversation sooner. Please, leave. Meghan turned on her heel and walked off the stage, her heels clicking loudly in the otherwise silent studio. The second she disappeared from view, the audience erupted into applause, a standing ovation that seemed to shake the very walls of the studio. Kelly stood there for a moment, clearly processing what had just happened, and then she turned to face the audience with a small, somewhat shaken smile. Well, she said, and her voice cracked slightly with emotion. That was unexpected. The audience laughed, a release of tension that had been building throughout the entire exchange. Kelly took a deep breath, visibly composing herself. I want to say something, if that's okay. The applause quieted down, and everyone leaned forward, eager to hear what she would say. Kelly looked out at the faces watching her, and, when she spoke, her voice was strong and clear. I started this show because I wanted to create a space where people could come and be themselves, where we could have real conversations and real connections. And I believe in being honest. I believe in having difficult conversations when they need to be had. But I also believe in kindness. I believe in respect. I believe that no matter who you are, no matter what you've been through, that doesn't give you the right to treat other people as less than. The audience erupted into applause again, and Kelly had to wait for it to die down before she could continue. I've been so lucky in my life. I've gotten to do what I love, I've gotten to meet incredible people, and I've gotten to connect with all of you. And yeah, maybe what we do here isn't changing the world in some big dramatic way. Maybe we're not solving global crises or restructuring institutions. But you know what? We're making people smile. We're making people laugh. We're making people feel less alone. And I don't think that's something to be ashamed of. I think that matters. The applause was deafening now, and you could see tears in the eyes of some audience members. Kelly's own eyes were glistening, but she was smiling, a real genuine smile that reached all the way to her eyes. So to everyone watching, to everyone who's ever felt like what they do doesn't matter because it's not flashy enough or important enough or world-changing enough, I want you to know that's not true. If you bring light into someone's life, if you make someone's day a little bit better, if you show up with kindness and authenticity, that matters. That will always matter. She paused, taking another deep breath. And to anyone who thinks they're too important to treat others with basic respect, who thinks their experiences somehow make them better than everyone else, I just want to say this. It doesn't. It really doesn't. We're all just people, trying to do our best, trying to make our way through this world. And the measure of a person isn't what they've been through, or who they've married, or how famous they are. It's how they treat others. It's the kindness they show. It's the respect they give. That's what actually matters. The audience was on their feet again, and the applause seemed like it would never end. Kelly stood there, taking it in, and you could see the emotion on her face. This wasn't just about one difficult interview. This was about standing up for something bigger, something that mattered. This was about drawing a line and saying that no matter who you are, certain standards of human decency still apply. "Thank you all so much for being here today," Kelly said, once the applause finally began to quiet. "Thank you for your support, for your love, for just being the best audience anyone could ask for." We've got more show coming up after the break, and I promise it's going to be a lot more fun than what you just witnessed. The audience laughed again, and as the show cut to commercial, Kelly walked over to the edge of the stage, reaching out to shake hands and hug audience members who had come down to the front. The warmth had returned to the studio, the tension completely dissipated. What had happened was extraordinary, unprecedented, and completely real. In the control room, producers were frantically making calls, trying to figure out what to do with the footage they'd just captured. This was television gold, but it was also complicated, messy, and potentially controversial. But one thing was absolutely clear: as they watched Kelly interact with her audience, watched the genuine love and support flowing between the host and the people who watched her show, Kelly Clarkson had just won over America in a whole new way. The conversation that happened on that stage lasted only minutes, but it would be talked about for much longer. Not because of who the guest was, not because of the drama or the conflict, but because of what it represented. It was a moment where someone stood up and said that fame doesn't excuse bad behavior. That experiences, no matter how unique or extraordinary, don't give anyone the right to look down on others. That kindness and respect aren't negotiable, no matter who you are. Kelly had spent years building a reputation as someone genuine, someone kind, someone who treated everyone with the same warmth and respect, whether they were an A-list celebrity or a regular person off the street. And in that moment, when that reputation was tested, when she was faced with someone who seemed to think the rules didn't apply to them, she didn't back down. She didn't let it slide. She stood her ground. The rest of the show went on as planned. Kelly welcomed other guests, played games with the audience, performed a song. Everything returned to the warm, welcoming atmosphere that her show was known for. But something had shifted. The audience looked at Kelly with a new level of respect, a new appreciation for the strength that lay beneath that sunny exterior. When the show wrapped and the audience filed out, they were buzzing with excitement, pulling out their phones, texting their friends and family about what they'd just witnessed. They'd come expecting a typical fun afternoon at a daytime talk show, and instead, they'd gotten front row seats to a moment of television history. They'd watched their host stand up for herself and for them in the most powerful way possible. Backstage, Kelly's team gathered around her, offering support, making sure she was okay. Kelly assured them she was fine, though you could see she was still processing everything that had happened. This wasn't how she'd planned for the day to go. This wasn't the kind of show she ever wanted to do. But when pushed, when faced with behavior that crossed every line, she'd done what she had to do. The show that aired that day became one of the most talked about episodes in daytime television history, not because of manufactured drama or planned controversy, but because it was real. Because it showed what happens when someone's true colors come out and when someone else has the courage to call it out. It showed that there are still standards, still lines that shouldn't be crossed, no matter who you are or what you've been through. Kelly Clarkson had always been beloved for her talent, her warmth, her authenticity. But after that day, she became something more. She became a symbol of standing up for what's right, of not letting anyone, no matter how famous or powerful they might be, treat others with disrespect. She became proof that you can be kind without being a doormat, that you can be welcoming without accepting unacceptable behavior. And the message was clear to everyone watching, to every person who'd ever been talked down to, who'd ever been made to feel less than, who'd ever wondered if standing up for themselves was worth it. Kelly showed them that it was. She showed them that respect is non-negotiable, that dignity matters, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply refuse to accept treatment that demeans you or others. The conversation between Kelly and Meghan lasted only a handful of minutes, but it encapsulated something much bigger. It was a clash between two completely different worldviews. One that said certain people are simply more important, more valuable, more deserving of respect than others. and one that said every person has inherent worth, that kindness matters, and that how you treat people reveals who you really are. In that moment, on that stage, Kelly made a choice. She chose kindness over ratings. She chose respect over celebrity. She chose to stand up for what she believed in, even when it would have been easier to just let it go, to laugh it off, to move on. And that choice resonated with millions of people who watched it happen. The interview that was supposed to be a friendly conversation became something entirely different. It became a masterclass in boundaries, in self-respect, in standing firm in your values, even when challenged. It became a reminder that fame and status don't erase the basic requirements of human decency. It became a moment where someone said enough is enough and meant it. Kelly had built her entire career on being genuine, on being herself, on treating everyone with the same warmth and respect. And when someone came onto her stage and showed contempt for all of that, she didn't pretend it was okay. She didn't make excuses. She didn't let it slide because of who the person was or what kind of attention they could bring. She simply said, "No, this isn't acceptable. This isn't who we are. Please leave." And in doing so, she showed millions of viewers something incredibly powerful. She showed them that you can stand up for yourself without being mean, that you can set boundaries without being cruel, that you can be firm and strong while still being kind. She showed them that respect isn't something you only give to certain people or only require from certain people. It's something that applies to everyone all the time, no exceptions. The audience that day didn't just watch a talk show, they watched someone live out their values in real time. They watched someone faced with a difficult situation handle it with grace and strength. They watched someone refuse to compromise on what matters, even when it would have been so much easier to just go along, to not make waves, to let it pass. That's what made it so powerful. It wasn't planned. It wasn't scripted. It was just real. It was Kelly Clarkson being exactly who she'd always been, standing up for exactly what she'd always stood for. And it was a guest revealing who they really were when challenged, when things didn't go exactly the way they wanted them to. The contrast couldn't have been clearer. On one side, someone who believed their status made them superior, who thought their experiences gave them the right to look down on others, who saw respect as something that flowed one way, from others to them, but never back. On the other side, someone who believed that everyone deserves respect, that kindness matters more than fame, that how you treat people when you think you're better than them reveals everything about your character. And when those two worldviews collided on that stage, there was only ever going to be one outcome, because Kelly Clarkson's show was built on a foundation of warmth, respect, and genuine human connection. And no guest, no matter how famous, no matter how much attention they could generate, was worth compromising that foundation. So she asked her to leave. And in doing so, she sent a message that echoed far beyond that studio, far beyond that audience, far beyond that one afternoon of television. She sent a message that said your character matters more than your status, that treating people well matters more than any title or position, that at the end of the day, we're all just people, and basic human respect isn't negotiable. The interview ended not with a friendly goodbye, not with pleasantries and thank yous, but with someone being asked to leave because they couldn't meet the most basic standard of decent behavior. And while that might have seemed harsh to some, to most people watching, it felt like exactly the right thing to do. It felt like someone finally saying what needed to be said, finally drawing a line that needed to be drawn, finally standing up when standing up was necessary. Kelly Clarkson walked onto that stage expecting to have a normal interview. She walked off having created one of the most memorable moments in talk show history. Not because she planned it, not because she wanted drama, but because when faced with behavior that contradicted everything her show stood for, she didn't compromise. She didn't back down. She simply stood firm in who she was and what she believed. And that moment, that decision, that refusal to accept unacceptable behavior, became something bigger than just one interview gone wrong. It became a cultural moment, a reminder of what matters. An example of what courage looks like, a demonstration that you don't have to accept being treated poorly by anyone, regardless of who they are. The 36 seconds it took for everything to explode, for the pleasant facade to crack and reveal what was really underneath, changed everything. It turned what should have been a forgettable afternoon talk show interview into something people would remember and talk about for years to come. It turned Kelly Clarkson from a beloved host into a hero for everyone who'd ever been talked down to and wished they'd had the courage to stand up for themselves. And it showed everyone watching that sometimes the right thing to do is the hardest thing to do. Sometimes standing up for what's right means making someone angry. Sometimes protecting your values means sacrifice. Sometimes saying no, even when it would be easier to say yes, is exactly what the moment requires. Kelly Clarkson did all of that on that stage. And in doing so, she reminded us all of something we sometimes forget. That respect matters. That kindness matters. That how we treat each other, especially when we think we're in a position of power or superiority, reveals who we really are. And that no amount of fame or status or extraordinary experience excuses treating others as less than. The show went on. The audience went home. The camera stopped rolling. But what happened that day continued to resonate, continued to matter, continued to remind people that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply refuse to accept behavior that demeans yourself or others. Kelly showed us all what that looks like. And in doing so, she created a moment that transcended entertainment and became something much more meaningful. A reminder of who we should strive to be and what we should never accept, no matter who it comes from.